Trust is now the second most important factor when a consumer chooses a company or a brand to buy or work with. TV, hands down, is the most trusted environment that you can advertise in.
Why are most adverts on television forgettable?
The only people who are tired of ads are marketeers. And actually, viewers very rarely tire of creative work. You want to create a piece of work that is really going to resonate and appeal to your target customer. And if you can't get that elevator pitch right, then how do you expect people to sort of understand who you are, and what you do?
This sounds too good to be true.
Welcome to the Business Growth Podcast, powered by ActionCOACH UK, the world #1 in business coaching. Since 1993, we've helped thousands of business owners and entrepreneurs worldwide smash through their limits and achieve extraordinary results. This is more than a podcast, it's your blueprint for success. So grab a pen and paper, take notes, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell for weekly growth insights. Let's do this.
ActionCOACH, the help you need to grow your business.
Why are most adverts forgettable? You see them, you skip them, you move on. But every now and then, one stops you in your tracks. And days later, you still remember it. That's smart advertising. In this week's episode of the ActionCOACH Business Growth Podcast, James Vincent sits down with Kurt Edwards, a media veteran with over 20 years experience leading business development for some of the UK's most iconic media brands. Kurt now works with AdSmart from Sky, the world's leading addressable TV platform, helping businesses turn advertising into customers, fame, and profit. If you ever thought that TV advertising was out of reach, think again. This episode will change the way you think about marketing forever.
This episode is sponsored by Trustis, helping you stand out in Google search. They make it easy for you to collect new reviews and use them to drive more traffic to your website, often by as much as 200%. If you want customer reviews on your website, then Trustis is the one for you.
Okay, let's get going. Why are most adverts on television forgettable?
Oh, that's a hard question. Do you know what? There's a great piece of research that's just come out recently from a company called System One. Yeah,
System One, and I'd advise anyone to sort of go on and have a look at their website. They're doing some great research currently about what makes great creative work, and they've done a big piece of research recently entitled "The Price of Being Dull." Yeah, and actually that. You know, their argument or that they put forward was that, you know, you spend so much money creating these media campaigns, but you lose so much of that impact just by delivering something that's quite forgettable when it comes to creative. And I think there is a tendency to get work out quickly, you know, and sort of people are always under pressure and sort of time constraints. Maybe sometimes the creative doesn't get the thought process that it deserves. But also it's hard to come up with something that's original and funny and emotional all the time. And, you know, I think definitely for smaller businesses, creative work can be quite functional. You know, this is where we are, this is what we do, this is the price we sell at, come and see us sort of thing. But I would advise companies to go and have a look at that sort of research, because I think it will sort of spur them on and give them a bit of an incentive to say, look, maybe we should just take a little bit longer to come up with something that we think is going to really make a mark. The price of being dull. I mean, that is, you've hit us hard with that one, haven't you? I mean, are most adverts dull?
No, I wouldn't say so, but it's sort of, I just think people are very busy. You know, people are doing lots of things, all the time. So, and they are being bombarded with hundreds, if not thousands, of commercial messages every day. To cut through and really resonate is not easy. There are lots of dull adverts out there, you know, and we're not talking just about TV or sort of posters or print ads. But, you know, I wouldn't agree that, you know, it's sort of dull can be effective at the same time.
You mentioned a trio of things just there, which was original, funny and emotional.
Yeah.
Is that the key to having an advert that's talked about and that lasts and that has impact?
There's a lot of research that says humour is probably
one or second most important thing in terms of creating an effective ad and getting the cut through. And humour is not easy. The other one is emotional, creating an emotional pull, and that is something that can really resonate with an audience and really bring them in and sort of maybe invoke an old memory or something, with children or with pets is always a good way of doing that. But, being humour and emotion in your sort of creative will give you some more chance of being that much more effective.
Is it psychological? Is it the psychology that we're playing to there for it being memorable and
of course
for it eliciting emotions?
Of course,
people don't remember what you said, they don't remember what you did, but they remember how you made them feel. Type concept.
100%. All of the research will say that. It's sort of people are very quick to forget messages. That's why we're always telling people, if you're going to tell someone, tell them once, tell them twice, tell them 3 times. But in terms of music or that scene or that emotional sort of sting, 100% makes your ad stand out from everyone else.
I remember there was I think it was Cadbury's. It was a Cadbury's advert. Well, I think it was. It should be memorable. When they were doing this with their eyebrows.
Yeah.
Do you remember that advert?
Oh, no,
it was ridiculously funny. People sat on a chair and just lifting their eyebrows like this, and there was some music going on.
Yeah, there's lots of ads.
It's just memorable because it's funny.
Yeah, but this actually, System 1 have also done another piece of research called compound creativity.
Go on.
Yeah, which talks about the only people who are tired of ads are marketeers. Yeah, and actually viewers, the public, very rarely tire of creative work. Yeah, because they just don't see it enough. Yeah. Whereas marketeers who are living the creative work because they're around it all the time, suddenly feel like everything needs a refresh after 18 months. And actually, a lot of the research says it doesn't. And if you stick with your distinctive assets, you stick with the storyline, stick with your logos and colours, and over time, that creativity compounds and becomes that much more effective. So you'll see some brands like, let's say, a new TV creative that's just gone live, Dairy Lee. They've just gone live in the last couple of weeks. They're using an ad from, probably 10 years ago. 2 kids talking about Dairy Lee and sort of, creating that connection. I'm not in the market for Dairy Lee. My kids are too old now, but I went like, oh God, I remember that ad. Great to see that back. And it creates that emotional pull, which is what it does. So lots more brands out there are starting to bring back creative work from many years ago because they realise it was really strong then. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be really strong now. Compound creativity is such a good phrase. I've not heard the phrase before, but when you found something that works, repeat it. I mean, that piece of research kind of gives you permission just to say there's no such thing as overusing it. Yeah. And that's the research, that's what it came out to sort of say, look, people do not tire of great work, and there's no reason why you shouldn't carry on using it. Maybe you're going to change it, little sort of finesse it here and then, but absolutely do not be afraid to use great work if it's worked for you in the past and to use it time and time again moving forward. I'm going back to my childhood. I'm thinking of adverts that I remember and stuff like that. There was one with the Sugar Puff Monster. Yeah. And he was in the goal. He was in the goals in football. He was saved as a goalkeeper. I remember it. Yeah. It's a bit of fun. It's emotional. I was into football at the time. I remember it now. People always remember great TV ads. Which ones stand out for you? That was the question that said. Well, actually, you did say the people in the industry, the creatives, the marketers, they're the ones that do. Well, you got the Cadbury's with the gorilla. When they're playing the drums. Yeah. Great work. You got the Frosty's tiger. All these sort of distinctive assets that they've used there that sort of just create sort of a memory for you, and sort of you call on and you think, yeah, great. I'll never forget. They did stop using the Frosty's tiger though for a bit, didn't they? I think that's more to do with health and sort of high government legislations. Yeah. Okay, so grabbing attention through humour, grabbing attention through emotions. What's the key to the emotions during an advert? The emotional pull. What is the key? Yeah, or keys. Yeah. Look, it's hard because when you're growing a business, you want to appeal to as broad an audience as possible because potentially all of those people are your customers. But I think you also really need to know who your ideal customer is and who that customer is, is going to be buying from you, because at the same, you want to create a piece of work that is really going to resonate and appeal to your target customer. I don't think enough brands test their creative work. Interestingly, again, System 1, they've really come into play in the last sort of 2 to 3 years, where what they do now is they create a pool of viewers and they give companies the ability to come in and test, be it TV creative or out-of-home creative, with a panel to sort of say, look, is this cutting through? Is this resonating? Are people coming away with the right messaging, the right feeling?
You test it with a panel,
yes.
not with the real world.
No, you're testing it with a panel of real-world people,
right?
So it's sort of
almost like a focus group type thing.
100%. But if you're going to spend a lot of money on an ad, and this is your one time of making it work, then I'm not. The logic would say you would spend a little bit more on just testing it and making sure it's the right ad, and it's going to cut through for you.
Logic would say that, common sense would say that, but right at the start of that, he said it's surprising how many even big brands don't test.
Yes.
And it's not surprising how many small businesses don't test. And is that because it requires effort and time? And is it this speed trap? We just want to get things out fast that's stopping testing going on?
I'd say speed is a big factor in that.
What else?
But also, so people don't know how to test, and where they can go to get it tested.
How do you test it? How do you test then? So we've got a focus group is one option.
Yeah, well, specifically in the case of a TV ad, you have to sort of use focus groups and something like System 1.
Right.
With, you'll create, I suppose if you're working with a creative agency, the onus is on them to go out and get feedback, from sort of potential customers. You would maybe go and recruit a pool of customers or share, ask customers that you work with.
Just on that point on the agency, I think that is a small business trap as well. Over-reliance on an external company doing it. You think that they're going to do it, but are they doing it properly? Are they actually doing it? It's very, very common that it doesn't happen even through the agencies.
Yeah, that could be the case. I wouldn't sort of say I'm an expert in that space, but it's sort of, I think also I think you've also got to remember you're not the customer. So a lot of the people who are signing off the creative work probably work within that business, but they're not necessarily the person who comes in and buys from that business. So there is a tendency we definitely see, and that comes out through a lot of the research as well, that, people signing off the work are not necessarily the customer that it's appealing to. So you should really be trying to test your creative work with the customers that you want it to resonate with.
I did a little bit of research in preparation for sort of asking you these questions, and the big traps that businesses fall for when they're advertising like this. And the result, when you make mistakes, these are the biggest sort of negative results that people have. Wasted spend. All right. So wasted spend. The wrong audience, so it's going out to the wrong audience you've already mentioned.
Yeah.
Getting people want a broad audience. You got to be clear on your customers, and no clear message. So wasted spend, wrong audience, and no clear message. They were the sort of biggest negative results of bad advertising that this piece of research came up with. Which is the most common out of them?
I'd probably have to say wasted spend.
Right.
Because
that's lack of testing.
Well, it's also, there's an element of, people feel they need to spray and pray. They sort of go to as wide an audience as possible. And sometimes actually, it could be that, it's, I suppose, that 80-20 rule, isn't it? 80% of your sales probably come from 20% of the people that you're trying to reach. So it's
but of course, they're all linked to each other, these. So, because part of that is targeting, and the second point was wrong audience. So clearly one is linked to the other anyway.
Definitely. And the clear message, there is a tendency to, specifically in TV where where I work currently, most people are working with a 30-second canvas, and people feel like they need to say so much within that, where actually sometimes less is more, and sort of, if you say something that's the right thing and you make it impactful, then it can really cut through compared to sort of just overkilling that sort of 30-second. So in terms of the wrong message, you need to be really clear what you want people to do, and you need to tell them, and you need to tell them again, and you need to tell people how they can engage with you. I'm always surprised where people run a 30-second ad and then they put all the details on the last second end frame. And it's like, well, you've just paid for the 30 seconds, so why wouldn't you use the 30 seconds to educate,
Do you know what? I'm getting so many sort of blinding flashes of the obvious as you're saying this, because it is so common that, I've been doing it with marketing teams as well, where you just try and get too much in.
Yeah.
And less is more. 30 seconds you've got to tell a story, in effect, really, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's really interesting now, the trend we're seeing is a lot more. So the approach that I would normally recommend is if you're a relatively new brand into market and you feel like you haven't quite got the awareness, then a 30-second canvas for me is what you should be working with, because you need to tell your story. You need to tell people who you are. But if you are a brand and this could be a local brand, it doesn't need to be a national brand, but if you are a brand that has cut through, that has some good brand awareness, then more and more brands are working with 10-second creative. And the reason they're going that way is, one, I suppose you get more for your money. You get more spots for your money when working with shorter time lengths. But also, people are so versed now in social media where people are working with shorter time lengths. All the research says that most people's attention span now is 10 to 20 seconds, before people sort of fall off and lose interest. So people are having to really learn quickly about how you create a shorter message, and that's really impactful in a shorter time length. So if you can work to getting that right, then you should definitely be able to, how do I get the 30 right?
I quite like that, the 30-second canvas you said and the sort of 10-second creative. I mean, I wonder if that's a practice ground, just like LinkedIn videos and Instagram videos, that people are putting out there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are more than 30 seconds, let's be honest, and how much is actually being watched. I wonder if they played to those two kind of frameworks. Try some at 30 seconds and let's see the impact. Try some at 10 seconds, the 10-second creative. I'm going to try some.
I think that... Look, I think definitely there is a tendency within some companies, more so the smaller companies, just because they haven't, I suppose, got the experience or they haven't seen the research to tell them otherwise. But people, they'll probably start at a 20, they end up at a 30, and they think, do you know what, I probably want to get it into a 40. Whereas all of the research that says, people's attention span dramatically falls off after sort of 20, 25, 30 seconds. So you need to be able to refine your message. And if you can't get that elevator pitch right, and really condense that message and create cut through, then how do you expect people to sort of, understand who you are, what you are, and what you do?
You've just reminded me, actually, one of my coaches is called Paul Ryan. He coaches me on presenting. And he shared with me once a 6-word story. It literally, a story that gets emotions.
Yeah.
And it tells you far more than 6 words, but it's only in 6 words. And it goes like this. Baby shoes, for sale, never worn. And of course, it leads the listener or the viewer to sort of piece the jigsaw together themselves. And that's the power of brevity. That's the power. There's a story being told there in 6 words. So can you do this? Yes, you can. But what you're saying you've got to do on this as well, you've got to tell them what you want to do at the end of it as well.
Yeah.
Where to go, what to do, what's the call to action, what to look for.
Yeah. 100%. If you're going to create you tell people the way typically older audiences still like to call. They still like to hear someone's voice at the end of the phone. So a phone number if you're appealing to much older audiences, a web address, sort of places they can go, or how to search, search for this term and things like that. Tell people what you need them to do. People want to be told. You're expecting people to sort of see your ad or watch your ad or, pass it in the street, and you're asking them to action something. So tell them how to action.
Tell them how to action at the end, the 30-second.
Yeah.
Maybe we could put the challenge to the listeners right now. I mean, come on, let's see what you can do. Start testing some 30-second canvases, 10-second creatives as well.
It's making an observation on when it comes to small businesses, the people I talk with. It's sort of, I think business owners are rightfully so. You're always trying to self-learn, aren't you? And you're the first to sort of recommend, self-learn in terms of how to be a better manager, how to be a better leader, how to get the best for your team, how to get the best for your culture. I definitely think there is a blind spot in terms of people don't look out for research when it comes to marketing. to, advertising, what's working, how trends are changing, how people are consuming ads differently now from what they were 5 years ago. And there is so much research out there, more so than ever before. There's lots of podcasts, there's YouTube videos, just telling you what's working in video, what's people's attention span, how they consume ads in social compared to how they consume it in print. And I definitely think there is more that can be done to self-learn around, what creates cut through. And as a business owner, it's one of the spends that people, resent having to spend in terms of advertising. But if you are going to spend it, I don't know why you wouldn't want to make sure that you're spending it wisely and rightly.
Well, it sounds like both myself and the listeners should be going and reading some of this System 1 research.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good.
Because that's going to really pinpoint us, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. The price of being dull definitely makes you sit up and listen, but the compound creativity really takes the onus off. We've always got to come up with fresh work every year. And actually, if we've got something that's working, how do we just make it
work
down, longer?
Go longer?
Yeah.
Go again.
Just think of the money that you're going to save by not coming up with a completely new creative refresh. And actually, you can spend that on media instead to reach more people and sort of drive more sales.
You said it again, the price of being dull. Every time you're saying it, it's like almost offensive. It's like it's injecting a healthy dose of dissatisfaction into my veins for our marketing team. The price of being dull. It's a big price, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Well, it's massive. It's not. It can be.
Yeah.
It's keeping you where you are. And
I think also you need to just freshen things up. And freshen things up doesn't mean you have to come up with new creative all the time. But you've just got to, I suppose, move with the times. See what's I suppose this works more so in social where people are always tapping into that cultural moment. What's the conversation at the moment? How can we sort of tap into a song or a theme or a movie, or, how can we resonate with what everyone's talking about?
Okay, so TV ads versus digital. How does TV ads build trust between my brand or my business and the marketplace?
Well, I'm glad you used the word trust, because that's probably one of the most powerful words sort of being used around at the moment when it comes to media.
Right.
Interesting enough, so pre-pandemic, trust was probably the seventh most important reason for a consumer to buy into a brand. Post-pandemic, trust is now the second most important factor when a consumer chooses a company or a brand to buy or work with, after price. And I just think it's the current climate we're in. People feel like they don't know what to believe, don't know what to read.
Right.
So people want to trust the brands, what they stand for, their positioning. They deliver on what they say they're going to deliver before they're going to sort of build a loyalty or spend money with them. The great thing when it comes to TV is lots of research, not just from, my company Sky, but all the big marketing bodies like Thinkbox and sort of IPA say that TV, hands down, is the most trusted environment that you can advertise in. Yeah. Partly that's driven by the fact that you cannot advertise on UK TV without your ad being Clearcast approved. Yeah. So, you cannot broadcast as an advertiser unless every claim has been substantiated, everything that within your ad has been proven to say, look, this is true, this is what they can deliver on. You take the polar opposite on something like social and digital.
Say anything you want.
Say anything you want. You've only got to think of all the Martin Lewis sort of scam ads that are out there and people being sort of scammed daily by, lots of different sort of advertisers. But people recognise that now, and sort of all the research comes at the total other end of the scale is social media and digital, the least trusted environment for brands to be advertising in, and the least trusted environment where people sort of believe what's they're coming across. Yet, interesting enough, digital and social is where the majority of SMEs and sort of are looking to spend their money, because I suppose you're out there hoping that you're going to create a viral sensation, that you're going to create the numbers, and it's very easy to get addicted to that sort of digital short form sort of performance advertising where you're constantly chasing the sale rather than how do I build the brand.
I'm going to get to small businesses and advertising on TV in a second, but I just want to go back to that Clearcast thing and the level of compliance that TV broadcasting has in place in comparison with other social channels where small businesses are advertising. That's resulting in increased trust automatically.
100%. You know, people know that if they see an advert on TV, they can believe what that advert is telling them and what they can get across. But also, as broadcasters, you know, we have a right to create trustworthy content, premium content, which all lends itself. Our news, you know, news is a big part of, you know, a company like Sky, where we spend millions on creating, you know, the award-winning Sky News channel. And we need to be seen to be coming up with good, trusted, truthful content at all times, and that lends itself to be creating a trusted environment for brands to take advantage of.
I interviewed a couple of people. I'm going to mention their business actually as some examples here. So one guy called Andy Alderson, he had a business called Vanarama, and he advertised on TV.
Yeah,
and he also sponsored the
football league.
Yeah, the football league. Yeah, so Vanarama, and when he did that. And he was getting on TV, double-edged thing. So he was getting on TV through some adverts, but he was getting on TV naturally because he sponsored the league and the Vanarama League. He was all over it, but his business just went through the roof. And what he said to me, he says, this is where people make mistakes. There's too many gimmicks on adverts. Your advert has got to be about your brand, and it's got to elicit trust. So he said that. That's why I asked the question on trust. You said, I'm glad you asked about trust. Vanarama talks about the importance of it communicating your brand rather than the product or service.
Yeah.
Do you agree, disagree?
What, specifically with TV?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely. You know, if you want someone to build a loyalty with your brand and become a future customer and spend with you over it, they need to 100% believe in what you stand for and
But the
your
thing
offer.
is, small businesses aren't brands. A brand is a household name, isn't it? It's where 6% of the population know who you are already.
Yeah.
You know, so small businesses aren't brands, really.
But there's no reason why they can't become brands.
Good.
You
Keep
know,
going.
it's sort of, they are effectively, by trading, you are a brand. Yeah. It's your job to grow that brand and make it famous, you know, and build loyalty over time. So every company can become a brand. I suppose there's an argument depending on what industry you're in and the services that you offer. But, you know, as a business, you have a local community that you can build a brand with. You absolutely every opportunity to build brand over time, you know, and it's sort of a lot of the research from advertising will say that, you know, if you are going to build a brand, you have to focus on the long term in terms of creating that emotional pull and long-term advertising rather than always chasing the short-term gain, because you won't build the brand if you're always after the short-term results, you know.
Really, really good points, and some words of encouragement there actually for the listeners that they've got a brand. Absolutely, they can build that brand over time.
Yeah.
And, you know, go to your earlier points on the price of being dull. Let's find something that works and let's use it and let's proudly build your brand off the back of it. Another one who was sat in your seat was a dragon off Dragon's Den, Nick Jenkins.
Okay.
He owned a business called moonpig.com.
Yeah.
And he spent 30 grand. This was before his business exploded. He spent 30 grand on a lingo that went like this. Moonpig.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it cost him 30 grand to come up with that lingo, but that went on the advert. Of course, it was a bit of fun and humour as well, and a pig flying over the moon and all this kind of thing. But those TV adverts took his business from a small business to a £45 million plus business in a very, very short way. He exploded. Absolutely exploded. Next thing you're seeing him on is a dragon in Dragon's Den.
Yeah, yeah.
Incredible marketer, incredibly savvy. And he was a small business that used TV advertising and exploded.
So in the trade...
Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, definitely. In the trade, we call it a sonic ident or a sonic logo. Yeah.
Right.
And more companies are starting to revisit the idea. So, you know, McDonald's do it great with a sting. Domino's are now doing it with ooh, ooh. that suddenly, I believe has like a 97% awareness in the space of 2 years across the UK. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of research out there that says, when people are watching TV ads, for example, a lot of them are sort of hearing the ad rather than seeing it, so that the audio within a TV ad is absolutely crucial. Yeah. So if you can use a sonic logo to create that memory and make it work over time. So really powerful. I worked for many radio stations, really powerful. Lots of creative have sonic idents, sonic logos. More and more you're seeing it in TV. And there's no reason why you can't have it in other parts of your business. You'd have it on your telephone lines when people call in. You'd have it on your social media videos when people are watching it. And that just makes everything work that much harder for you over time. And there's loads of audio production companies that you can go to and create a really cost-effective sting. Or
it's so memorable, isn't it? The power of audio. It's like even if there was a song that you heard when you were 13 in the when you got your first girlfriend or and that song came on, you just remember back there because we remember music.
Yeah. There was a great piece of research that I saw when I was at Capital Radio years ago that one of the supermarkets, they in their wine section, they would play different music. So let's say on a Saturday morning, they would play German sort of beer keller music over the aisles, and they found the sales of German wines and beers went up dramatically. And when they played sort of French music, they found that their sales of sort of French wines and went up. So literally the power of sound was changing people's shopping habits as they were walking through the aisles. And, when they were being questioned afterwards, there was, why did you buy that French wine? Because, I just fancied a bit of French wine this week. And they would never have played to the fact that it was, the music had sort of convinced them, sort of played a part in their purchase decision. But it was all about what people were hearing and sort of listening, and it was sort of changing their habits as they were going.
You're making me think of what ActionCOACH could use. Like I'm thinking like a race car going vroom, like your business like growing fast.
I'm sure there's some $6 million man theme music you can use, James.
Yes. Yeah. Iron Man, Superman music. Yeah. There you go. Audio, the power of audio. Moonpig.com. Genius. Small businesses can use this, and like you said, on the phone lines, everywhere, put it everywhere.
Yeah, your touch point. British Airways were a great example of their sort of music. I forget the specific name of what they used, but they've moved on from it now. But they ran with it for many years, and every single touch point, every creative that they ran on air, on sort of radio, TV, everything always had it, and it just resonated. And absolutely, that levels the playing field for a small business, large business, multinational. Everyone can have that approach, and it doesn't cost the fortunes that you think it does.
You just made me remember something else. You're filling me full of emotions this morning. So one stage of our honeymoon, we went to Vegas, and we got a helicopter ride to the Grand Canyon, as you do when you go to Vegas. And as the helicopter was taking off, it goes really fast down the runway, but quite low to the ground. It takes off like this, but you got your headphones on.
Yeah.
And when they're doing it, they played Top Gun music. Honestly, so anytime I hear Top Gun music, it's like reminds me of like going in that helicopter down that thing. And it is so memorable. It's the power of audio and power of music in what people do is massively underused.
Definitely. And there's, a lot of people still run, video creative, be it on TV or in social, and don't think about the audio.
Well, you've made us all think of it and the importance of it right now. So look, that was all about trust. So I've got two other things about TV. Why does TV advertising help you scale your business? Why and how? So let me start with the how, is we have the ability now in sort of modern day TV to reach the right people. Yeah, be really specific about who we reach. So a company like Sky, we have around 9 million customers. And for each of those customers, we have around 1,200 different data points. Yeah. So we have the ability to really finesse that target audience that you're after. And what we do with many of the... Do you give that data to the people that advertise with you?
we don't give the data, but we use the data.
Right.
But what we do use that data for is also to help companies understand their customers better. So if you're a small business and you've got something like 12,500 customer accounts, and by that I mean first line of address and postcode, you can work with Sky where you can upload that data, and then Sky matches back your data to Sky data, and where there's a match, we'll share that data. So we'll create a profile around your customer. So it gives you the ability as a small business to say, who is my sweet spot customer? What is their affluence? What is their income? Do they have kids in the house? What is their typical age? What is their life stage and things like that. So once we create that sweet spot, that means we have the ability to be really more targeted. So to your point earlier about wasted spend, wrong audience, we now have that ability to make sure we're hitting the right audience and eliminating that wasted spend. Yeah, so that's why we're seeing.
And wow, I mean that's a game changer, really.
Definitely for small businesses that we work with, because they never thought they could do TV.
Yeah, I suppose the big businesses, your Tesco's and your big corporates, they've got all of the data, haven't they?
They have, and so we can, and in the case of the big companies, they'll say, look, these are my customers, can I reach them on TV?
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Or these are my customers, I don't want to reach them on TV.
I want new ones.
Can we exclude them? So
wow.
As a broadcaster, we have that ability to either remove or retarget your existing customers. But that applies to small businesses as well. If you know who's buying from you and you say, look, they're already buying from me and they're very loyal, I need to reach new customers, we have that ability to do that now. So, so in terms of how we can deliver targeted marketing on TV to help build fame and build profit and build customers for smaller businesses. In terms of scale, we're all about scaling and helping businesses scale, because what's really clear over the last couple of years, it's all about outcomes and how you measure that. As a small business, you don't have that luxury of being able to spend a large portion of your marketing budget and not know what it's done for you. Yeah. So we're constantly working with small businesses to finesse the sort of the transparency and accountability that we can offer them to sort of say, look, you've spent X, what have you got in return? Is that met the criteria? If so, let's go again, but let's spend a little bit more, sort of thing. So we're giving people the ability to test and learn all the time. If it's scaled, great, let's scale up. If it hasn't, let's finesse. What do we do? Let's go again,
Right.
sort of thing.
You're a bit of a marketing agency, really, then, if you're doing that kind of work with people.
I suppose you could sort of position it in that way. I mean, at Sky, our job is to help and grow and work with businesses to help them scale.
Look, you've blown my mind, really, with this data thing. I mean, target marketing has never been easier. That's what I kind of heard. This is the level of sophistication of the algorithms, and I'm guessing it's AI that's cross-referencing their data with your data, deciding on which kind of people it goes out
less
to.
so AI, but we are using AI more so because what we now have is the ability to look at all of the campaigns that we have run over the past decade, all of the research that's come up from that, all of the results that have come back, and all of that is now in a pool, and AI gives us the ability to very quickly say what's worked, why did it work, what were we doing in those campaigns that really worked that we need to be doing in those campaigns moving forward. So AI is very quickly taking out all of the best bits of all of the campaigns that we've run over the last 10 years and said, what was that magic ingredient, what was the magic ingredient that made that campaign that much more effective compared to the rest of the pool? And that's the learnings that we have as an organisation that we can share with the businesses that we work with to say, look, we know that creative can work better for you. We know that time length can work better for you. We know that frequency is what will really optimize your campaign. We know that is the size of the audience you should go after first time round, and then you can scale up afterwards.
Yeah, and look, then you work with them. Hang on, it's not quite right yet. Don't put more into it. Test this, test that. But the level of sophistication of the technology that you've got there to target market makes life much easier for small businesses. The result is fame and profit, like what you said earlier on.
There is a tendency for small businesses still to think TV's never for me. My brand is never going to be able to afford TV. Yeah,
because there's a gap between small businesses and corporates.
Yeah.
The corporates have got it all worked out. They're all over TV all of the time. But is now the time where actually the key benefits are for the small businesses. That gap doesn't even need to be there.
Well, it doesn't need to be there. They're on a level playing field. It doesn't matter what size of your business.
Part of the gap in the past was the cost, the sheer cost. Yeah. I mean, how much is TV advertising for small businesses?
Well, the starting price for a 6-week TV campaign on a broadcaster like Sky is £3,000. You know, so
yeah, and but the beliefs, like certainly in my mind as well, you know, as I was growing up, it was costing hundreds of thousands of pounds to advertise on TV, moving into millions of pounds.
Yeah, well, that's just not the case anymore. You know, but people don't look at TV because they just assume that's still the case.
Yes.
But it couldn't be more different. I work with, closer to home, I work with a bed retailer in southwest London. He spends, at the extreme end of it, he spends £3,000 every quarter. So £1,000 a month. Yeah. So he recognises that people are, buying beds is not seasonal. You never know when people are going to be in the market for bed. But it allows him for £1,000 a month to be on TV in all of the best content that Sky has on the best channels in his local market. So,
do they go on every channel when they go with Sky TV?
Whatever you're watching is where your ad will appear. Yeah. So he spends £1,000 a month.
You mean whatever you're watching is in the target audience?
Yes. So I will, because I live probably 400 metres from that store in question, I'll be watching TV.
Is he your favourite?
Is he my favourite?
Yeah, are you giving him extras here because
no.
he's 400 metres away?
No, you know. But I love the fact he's a local business on my doorstep, and I knocked on his door and I said, look, I think I've got something for you that can help you grow. And he said, look, I'm doing the same thing that I've always done. I'm doing local magazines. I'm doing a bit of Facebook. I'm doing a bit of Google AdWords.
Amazing.
Everything seems to be more expensive than it was. The returns seem to be less than I've been getting in the past. And I'm just not cutting through. When I open the back of the magazine, there's 10 bed retailers. What can I do that's different? We created a TV ad. And again, the cost of creating a TV ad has come down dramatically. £2,000 is what he spent. And that is one TV that he can use on his websites, on his social media, and he uses it on TV channels. It's a £2,000 investment, and it is an investment, not a cost. It's an investment
because you got an asset.
Piece of video. And that's lasted him for 18 months. He then spends £3,000 every quarter to be on TV, and he targets homeowners, adults 45 plus, certain degree of income, you know, and they must live within 2 miles of his store. Yeah, that's the level of targeting he can then go. And do you know what he said to me? Sort of, he'd been live sort of 2 weeks, and he said, Kurt, I've had 2 customers come in and said they've seen my TV advert. Yeah, in 8 years, no one has ever said to me they saw my Facebook ad. And that's the difference. Here is suddenly a high street brand on a 55-inch screen in people's favourite content, you know, saying, oh, that's on the high street. How come they're advertising on Sky? You know, that's just down the road from me.
Look, you're making me, for all of the listeners right now, I'm speaking on their behalf because I want all of the listeners' business to grow. You know, I'm serious about that, and that's why we're getting people like you on there. But this sounds too good to be true. It's one of those moments. I mean, you've hit the emotions with me. For 8 years, we've been advertising on Facebook. No one's ever come in and said, I've seen your advert. We've been advertising on TV for 2 weeks. 2 people have said, seen you on TV.
Yeah.
Like, whoever's listening right now, if you do go ahead and start doing some of these Sky adverts, please reach out to me directly whenever that is and let me know the outcome. And if you get any messages like that and I need to spread the joy even further, you know, because let's test it. And what I really like about what you're saying, though, is like, yes, $2,000 to build an ad, $3,000 to do it over a quarter or however long you do. But you're working with people to say, look, it's not quite ready. You're not getting this kind of thing yet. Right, you're ready to scale up. Because that's what the audience need to know as well, when to scale up.
Yeah. Well, all of the growth, we recognise as a broadcaster that all of the growth that we're looking to achieve over the coming years is going to come from small businesses, from the SME market. Yeah, that's what's driven a lot of the growth when it comes to digital platforms. And there's absolutely no reason why that can't drive the growth in TV. And because of things like AdSmart and ITVX and things like that, other sort of addressable platforms, That has been created so we can tap into that long tail of businesses who want to build fame, who want to scale, and they can now do it through TV. Yeah. And that ability to say to someone, look, why don't you test and learn? Why don't you test £5,000 or £3,000 on a TV campaign? If it works, great. You've got the confidence to scale up and go again. If it doesn't work, let's finesse. But also, you know that you haven't spent an entire year's marketing budget on a TV campaign that hasn't delivered for you. That confidence that we can give to you as a business owner to say, look, we're here to handhold you. We're here to help you grow and scale. We believe we can do that at TV. You know.
A few quick questions to wrap up with.
Yeah.
What's your definition of success?
From a business point of view or personal?
Both.
I wish he'd give me a sort of warm up when it comes to these questions.
We don't need warm ups. We need to be heart and sleeve, off the cuff.
For me, success in my personal life, for example, is happy home, happy family, and happy life in terms of my job. I'm very fortunate. I absolutely really enjoy the job that I'm doing, and I've been very fortunate enough to work for incredible sort of media companies, and I've loved every single one of them that I work for. So success for me is being fulfilled at home and in your job. I think success in business is being able to. Success is, for me personally, in the business environment, is to work with companies and see them grow. To be able to meet someone for the very first time and say, look, I think I can do something for you, and still be working with them 2-3 years later and having seen their business grow over time. And at the same time, you've built a really strong relationship, a business relationship. That's fantastic. Why wouldn't I want to just repeat that time and time again with everyone I work with?
What's been the hardest lesson that you've had to learn throughout your career in media?
The hardest lesson? I'm not always right. I think sometimes listening is so powerful, and so I'm probably in the past, when I was young, I was very quick to offer up my opinions and sort of felt that you had to be vocal in the room to be, noticed. And I think over time, as you sort of become wiser, listening more and probably saying less, but making it more impactful when you do it is a great lesson.
Well, it served you pretty well, because where you are right now, you're the leading force in a major giant, aren't you, in advertising industry. So what's the biggest myth about TV ads?
The biggest myth? Well, I think it has to come down to the perception of price and the type of company that you are.
It's not for small businesses. Yeah. It's going to cost hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stress enough how much the landscape has changed in the last few years in terms of the ability. Any company now has the ability to become a TV advertiser. Yeah. So, we have that ability now to work with B2B audiences, B2B companies who are trying to target senior decision makers, to local schools, big growth sector for us, private schools, universities, colleges, these sectors who probably would never think that they were going to be on sort of TV. I'm working with a current client, Windsor Forest College. They got their students to make the TV advert. They got the students to make it, film it, be part of it, act in it, using iPhones. They have students who are studying video production, and they use them to create the TV advert. Companies would have thought, I can't do that. I can't have my students make a TV advert. It just wouldn't be allowed. So the price of entry is so accessible now, and I think that is the myth. And our job as broadcasters is just to change that perception over time, to sort of say, look, there's no reason why you can't grow your business on Sky and other TV channels.
What's the first action the listeners should do now they've listened to this?
Well, look, I think the first thing you should do is straight away think, actually, all my options are open. Yeah, don't think that you're pigeonholed into doing digital and doing what you've always done. The world is your oyster now when it comes to lots of different channels, be it out of home, be it TV. you can do more than you think. Yeah, you just need to spend the time just to investigate, understand more what the options are. What are the entry points? What is the data that I've got? How can I use the data that I already have to help me be more effective when it comes to my advertising? And go and search it. Spend that time and look at what's possible.
You know what my favourite part of this interview has been? I've had an overwhelming feeling that small businesses can tap into TV advertising in a huge way. I mean, I've had lessons on the price of being dull, compound creativity, things to go off and research. But, you know, there's a myth that this is going to cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds. And dare I say it, this might be the starting point of small businesses bridging the gap between those huge corporate giants and starting to get the money and profits and fame that they deserve. And a massive, massive thing is definitely the power of audio and music and the impact that that can have on your advertising. One other thing, definitely listen to the 30-second canvas and the 10-second creative and the power of those two things. Those have been my favourite bits. What's been your favourite bit of this conversation?
Well, spending 50 minutes with you, James, of course. You know, look, the opportunity to get this message across, to tell people that as a small business owner, there's no reason why you can't build fame like the big multinationals. There's no reason why you can't take advantage of the same platforms that these big corporates are working with every day. The landscape has changed. Please take advantage of it. Please come to us as broadcasters, as media owners and say, look, what can you do? Put the onus on us. What can you do to help grow my business? And how can you grow with me?
Kurt Edwards, on behalf of everyone here at Action Coach, thank you to you. Thank you to Sky TV. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Absolutely love the opportunity to spend this time with you. Thank you.